Good morning, my dear students, staff members, parents, and principal. At the outset, let me begin by wishing you all a very happy 74th Indian Independence Day. The very word independence takes us back to our memories, our history, and our stories. Back then, prior to 1947, things were different. All of us Indians were forced to live under rule of power, were forced to live under restrictions, were forced to live under domination. Now, if I talk about those stories, if I take you back to that history, if I take you back to your ancestors, I don't think it's going to be relatable to all of us. Why? Because as much as you want to believe it, you have not experienced it. It's like in the modern day connotation, talking to a student or talking to a child about the greatness of Sachin Tendulkar in cricket. As much as the child realizes and recognizes the fact that Sachin Tendulkar is an all time great batsman of the game, the child may not relate to that particular gentleman. Whereas you talk about Virat Kohli, then the student is going to raise his eyebrows and say, yes, or maybe Mahendra Singh Dhoni, or maybe any other champion whom you admire. What am I trying to tell you here is experience actually makes a difference when it comes to understanding. In fact, in the concept of education, we want to stress more on experiential learning for that very reason, because when you do it, you realize it in a much more better manner. So now coming back to independence. Independence as a concept has always been there ever since the beginning of time. And the best word to substitute independence is liberty. As human beings, we all put a premier on the word liberty. What does liberty actually mean? Liberty is the freedom to think, to do, and to be what you really want to be. You're completely free to do it. You're completely free to think whatever you want to, and you're completely free to be in a manner where your fellow citizens, your fellow human beings, do not feel threatened. Now, look at the current scenario. The current scenario is nothing less than a feeling of mutual restrictions. Why? Because of corona pandemic or COVID-19 pandemic. Now, back then in February 2020, none of us imagined that this is going to be the situation. But now we realize or we experience what it means to be living under restrictions or living with restrictions. In that sense of the word, I think the Independence Day 2020 is more significant than all our previous Independence Days, which we have celebrated in the school. Especially from the perspective of young children, I think this is not an Independence Day which can be comparable to anything before. Why? Here, you've gone through a particular time, maybe 3 to 4 months of restrictive activity. First, you were cramped up in your own homes. You were not allowed to step out. And slowly, as the restrictions were removed, but not fully, you have understood to live with restraint. Maybe wearing a mask, washing off your hands multiple times with a sanitizer, or maintaining social distancing in your activities. Now, if you look at this, you will always put a premium on that freedom which you enjoyed before. If I ask you, do you want to come back to schools? Do you want to step out to the malls? Do you want to have birthday parties and celebrations and sports? The answer will be a resounding yes. Now, let me tell you this, as much as you all want to do that, we as educators, we as elders, we as your parents and teachers, we want to welcome you back to our schools with open arms. But there is a lesson here, there is a learning here, and that learning is both prior to 1947 and now in 2020, when we want to achieve full freedom, complete freedom, the only way, the one and only way to achieve full freedom is when you go and harness the potential of your intellect. When you go back to the grassroots, the deep roots within your own self, and come back powerful by being an adaptive, intellectual, and then you win over the opponent. Back then, it might be the Britishers, but today it is the coronavirus. And in both the scenarios, it is going to be a fight of the intellect, a fight for the right reasons, a fight for survival. So, friends and my dear students, this Independence Day, let's once again remind ourselves that if we harness the potential of our own self, if we can go back to the grassroots deep within us and then bring out the intellect, we are going to come out successful on the other side. It may take time. Remember, our freedom did not come overnight. It will take time, but it will surely come. So, with this note of optimism, I want to once again wish all of you a very happy Independence Day, and may this August 15th be the beginning of that change which we want to usher in to welcome the new normal. World as we see it is not going to be the same. Our country, India, is not going to be the same. Our homes are not going to be the same, and I want you and I to not be the same. Let's evolve, let's refine, and let's be ready to welcome the new normal. So instead of focusing on what should have happened, let's make it happen. I think that's the message which we need to take back on this auspicious occasion of Indian independence.